It's termite season.
Hi, it's me.
And bugs fear the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. Go blue at Essential Pest Control. We'll eliminate those bugs, bees, and termites. And stop paying too much to that national provider. Buy local for great service and affordable rates. Call Essential Pest Control because termites fear the blue.
Run for your life.
Call for the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. 886-3029. That's 886-3029. Or check online at essentialpest.com.
This is Eb Wilkinson with Wilkinson Wealth Management, where we manage money for gun owners. What does it mean to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired? It means designing a plan that allows you to do the things you want to do, outpace inflation, and never run out of money in your lifetime. If you want to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired, call me, Eb Wilkinson, at 777-1911. That's 777-1911 or WilkinsonWealthMGMT.com.
I'm proud to welcome my good friends at Tucson Iron and Metal Retail to Inside Track as an advertiser. Jamie Kipper and her staff are conservation experts. They sell round and square steel tubing, metal plate and roofing materials, as well as new and used steel, aluminum, and stainless steel to ranchers, artists, interior designers, roofers, as well as you do-it-yourselfers out there. Tucson Iron and Metal Retail is open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail, 701 East 36th Street. Call 520-209-1576. That's 520-209-1576. Or go to TucsonIronRetail.com. Come by and be sure to ask for Jamie. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail. This is what conservation and repurposing is all about.
Welcome to Inside Track with Bruce Ash and Eb Wilkinson on the Live the Dream Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and a very pleasant good morning to you wherever you may be. Welcome to episode 32 of Inside Track. Bruce Ash coming to you along with Eb Wilkinson and special contributor, retired U.S. Navy Captain Robert Wells, from the Live the Dream Media Studios in Marana, Arizona. We're just a week from Christmas Eve, and tonight we'll light the candles for the fourth night of Hanukkah. What a great time of the year, Eb.
And before we jump into the big Wednesday show today, be sure to join us for a special live broadcast next Wednesday. We're going to have Harry Alexander and Bunker de Mills, or Bunker de France.
Him too.
Voices of the West partnering up. And they're going to join us for a special Cowboy Christmas when the boys talk about classic Christmas Westerns on our December 24th show. I didn't know there were classic Christmas Westerns.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll find out.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll all be good. Thanks for joining with us on the Live the Dream Media app or watching us on X, Facebook, YouTube, and our other platforms. Before we hear from our guest, retired U.S. Navy Captain Kirk Lippold, here's something to consider. This past weekend showed that terror is facing us again. The killing of American troops in Syria by ISIS, a possible terror link to the Brown University murders, and of course the horrific massacre at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia by a radicalized father and son team there. Acolytes of these murderers here in Tucson, leaving their hateful anti-Jew filth at the Tucson Jewish Community Center and other Jewish institutions here in town. All this during the Hanukkah season. There have been many who would kill Jews, but we are reminded of Judah Maccabee and his brothers in a small army who stood up and defeated a mighty oppressor. Jews will not bend a knee to any nation or movement. The events of this week, renewed anti-Jew violence, is nothing, and the history is too long to recite here. But let me share some words from Naomi Wolf, a columnist I respect, and her reaction and mine to the Jew haters all across the globe. We are in a time now again in which powerful people want to keep the forms of this or that religion or philosophy or building or practice or ritual or holiday, but to erase the sacred. It did not work for them. It did not work then. It won't work now. We are not going anywhere. We will remember and we will defend the sacred. If that makes you hate us, so be it. The sacred oil, the festival light, is for everyone. That has been essentially our message. If you destroy us, if you slander us, if you murder us, you still cannot kill this off. You only debase the sacred in yourself. We are not weak, and we will defend ourselves. Eb?
Well said. Well said, and no different than the great Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could ever imagine. And that's what's going to happen. And another thing, in Australia, when the authorities there say, oh, we found an ISIS flag, but we still don't know a motive. Seriously?
They knew.
It's crazy. Okay, the first half of this show is brought to you by our good friend Eric Rudin from Essential Pest Control. Call Essential today to keep your home or business or church. I just found out that our church uses Essential.
There you go.
And they do a great job, free from all sorts of insects, vermin, and weeds today. Call them at 886-3029. Bruce just hired Essential to do weed control at 2 of his properties.
They do a heck of a job.
2 of his many properties. Retired guest Navy Captain Bob Wells joins us for our special broadcast today, featuring our guest today, Kirk Lippold. Bob, take it over. Introduce Kirk to our audience as we discuss terrorism lessons from the attack.
Is Kirk with us?
Well, Kirk's had a power outage where he's physically at, so he's trying to do a workaround, and certainly I can introduce him. He's a shipmate, and he's been part of the Inside Track group ever since the last couple years, trying to continue to communicate the lessons of the USS Cole. So we'll have him on the show, but certainly for all the listeners out there, while we're working through the technical difficulties, Captain Kirk Lippold was the commanding officer of the USS Cole, DDG 67, and in October 12th of 2000. He experienced a catastrophic al-Qaeda attack, and that's why he's on the show today, because it's very apropos to really think about connecting the dots, trying to get left of boom, as we used to say.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and call him on the phone and just do it like we did last week.
We could do that, too. Let me go ahead and work with the producer to do that. But for our listeners, while we get Captain Lippold on here, he is a very exceptional leader, and he was part of the Navy routine coming into the Middle East and taking the ship to Yemen and going into, quote-unquote, a routine, what they called in the Navy, a brief stop for fuel. And that basically started the issue.
Shay, let's play a clip from the special Daily Wire documentary. You've got that in the Slack from me about the Cole attack, and it'll give us kind of a backdrop to this attack on a U.S. Navy warship and what Captain Lippold has written in his book.
That's correct.
All right. Can you run that, Shay?
Al-Awali told us Al-Qaeda is planning to attack a U.S. Navy ship as it's refueling in the port of Aden.
There was a lot of warning out there to the ships. Did the Cole get that information? I can't tell you.
Bin Laden was getting very antsy what could be next.
I don't think we missed any specific threats.
It wasn't if it was going to happen, it was when the United States was going to be attacked.
They were walking into a trap. I saw a boat coming at us. They were close enough that I could see them smiling and waving. Then the explosion happened.
2 men in it was apparently not seen as a threat.
It may have been impossible to prevent.
Osama bin Laden had essentially declared war against the United States.
Certainly emboldened Al-Qaeda.
Why were we even operating in that port? What was the intelligence community doing? No one connected all the dots until it was too late.
People in the U.S. didn't comprehend that there was an organization called Al-Qaeda. People living in caves, basements, who actively sought to kill Americans.
I think our government certainly had enough of the information to have done something.
They were focused totally on us. No one was looking up the chain of command.
We had an opportunity to disrupt what became 9/11. USS Cole, Al-Qaeda's strike before 9/11. A 3-part series premieres October 10th on Daily Wire Plus.
Bob?
This Black Friday gift cleans your retainer at the touch of a...
Okay, we're done with the advertising.
Yes, that's an exceptional preview, and Kirk's book, Front Burner. As commanding officers, we have the OpRep 3 Front Burners, which means it's top of the line with regard to the command of a significant incident. And his chronicling of the Cole incident and his leadership and his crew and the families and what they did to recover after 17 days to finally get the Cole back to the United States shows the actual extraordinary capability of people trying to overcome challenges. So this particular preview is on now, and it came at the 25th anniversary of the
It's hard to imagine. It's 25 years
right.
and a couple of months since that event.
But it's important. We'll hear from him soon. We're trying to get him connected on via phone as he continues to work through his technical challenges there. But the Cole, to me, provides a continued example as to what we were trying to achieve in the Bush administration, which was vigilance. We were trying to prevent another 9/11, try to prevent another attack. And I think, Bruce, as you had alluded to with regard to the during the Hanukkah season, the attack on Jews and the attack on people and the notion of a global intifada, it's very helpful for us to realize that we've been through this before. And we need to basically be vigilant again, be hard targets, look around us, think about it, have good conversations with people to basically reduce risk. And that's a fundamental thing. And we had this saying also in the Pentagon, we have to get left of boom, which means that somebody is out there planning. It could be at the local level, a lone wolf level. It could be internationally like we saw in Australia. It could be in France. These are all considerations that we're still thinking through back in 2003, 4, 5, 6 when I was serving in the White House. So the intelligence community has to change course and refocus, and I think they have. We've got new and better organizations since we did at 9/11. The National Counterterrorism Center, communication to local areas, law enforcement with the FBI, Department of Homeland Security. This was all established in 2002. So this was informed by Al-Qaeda and dealing with Al-Qaeda and then ISIS and so forth. But now we have this global intifada.
Kirk should be on.
Kirk, you there? Okay, still working out that detail. The attack on the Cole does remain a watershed event. Just unimaginable loss. The damage to the ship.
Yes.
I think 17 sailors who lost their lives, if my memory serves me, and countless injuries on top of that. Kirk's going to tell us how not just his life, but the life of all the sailors on that ship and how their families were impacted by what happened that day.
Absolutely. As I recall, it's a routine is routine. You're pulling in for a brief stop for fuel. He's got a fully trained crew. He's heading to the Middle East. He's had a couple port visits en route in the Mediterranean and Spain and Malta and so forth. He's looking forward to doing his mission out there during that particular period of time. And we were vigilant, as naval leaders were, when we deployed to the Gulf. It's our favorite area to deploy to. It's national interest of the United States. But at this time, when he had two of the quote-unquote garbage barges, come alongside, no problem, very routine. But it was his third one, and it had two Al-Qaeda suicide bombers on board. And they had an underwater IED that was basically going to be placed against the hull and to be ignited. And Kurt will relay this in terms of the consequence of the blast, which blew inward and bent metal and killed people, killed his sailors. And during this time, I was in the United States at the Naval Academy after my command tour, and this shocked everyone with regard to Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. We had been tracking him since the 1998 Tanzania and Kenya bombings. We had also had an inkling inside of counterterrorism intelligence that Al-Qaeda was after us. So this was something that was at the national level, and this is the tragedy of the USS Cole, as Kurt will convey, not only in the preview you just saw from the Daily Wire, but the fact is we missed connecting the dots. And this is one of the key lessons that we have right now.
All right, I think we have Captain Kirk on the line.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Kirk,
it works.
Welcome aboard.
Technology and electricity are great things when they're on, and they work and they run. So thanks for the flexibility this morning, and my apologies.
Sorry, I forgot my bosun's pipe.
Ding, 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 ding.
Well, we have your mugshot on the screen right now, so we'll be able to enjoy that handsome swabby that we all know and love. Eb, why don't you start? Excuse me, Bob, why don't you start?
Kirk, welcome aboard to Inside Track, and we've just shown the Daily Wire and also mentioned to our listeners the front burner book that you had authored, which informed this new documentary. But could you tell us a little bit more about your ship, the Cole? And she was on a routine BSF, or a brief stop for fuel, in Aden. How did that play out?
Well, I'm going to rewind just a little bit. I took command of the ship in June 1999. I knew I had about 12 months to get the ship ready for deployment as part of the George Washington Aircraft Carrier Battle Group. The mission was to do what we call visit board search and seizure, which was to go to the North Arabian Gulf and board ships coming in and out of Iraq for illegal oil. We trained hard, and I kept raising the bar for the standard of performance. And at the end, we deployed about 6 weeks after the carrier left because of rotation schedules. And when I got to the Middle East, because of the number of ships we had, there was no oiler available to us. So after operating in the Mediterranean for about 6 weeks, we went through the Suez Canal on the 9th of October, down the Red Sea. And the morning of the 12th of October, we were off the port of Aden, Yemen. The only oiler was 1,000 miles away. We expected to be in there for 6 to 8 hours, taking on 250,000 gallons of fuel. When we pulled in that morning, we had contracted for 3 garbage barges. And as you said in the lead-in before I came on board, they were going to take off trash, plastic, and hazmat. 2 boats came out, no problem. They left without issue, and one was on its way back, and a third boat that looked just like the garbage barges began to approach the ship, slowed, turned by the bow, and came down the side of the ship. And what we didn't know is Al-Qaeda had been in the port for over a year. They had been observing when Navy ships pull in, what side they went to, what boats come out. And Al-Qaeda had brought in a boat from Saudi Arabia that looked just like the other boats, like the garbage barges. So when it went by, nobody saw anything untoward. They were a little suspicious, but there was nothing to indicate that there was a problem. And unfortunately, when that boat came in, they had built the explosives into the boat. They had covered it with red carpet. It detonated, and the shock wave from the blast, which was an estimated 5 to 7 feet from the side of the ship, blew a hole, and we had cracks within 18 inches of the keel and top to bottom, side to side. It was 40 by 40 feet. It created a cavern into the ship over 20 feet deep. It took out 2 of the 4 main engineering spaces. And we started to flood. Power failed on the forward 2/3 of the ship. Number 3 generator stayed operating, but the announcing system for the ship failed. No one could tell the crew what had happened, where to go, what to do. And in that singular moment, they fell back on that 15 months of training, and we were able to get the ship stable within a little over an hour. And that first day, we evacuated 33 wounded off the ship in 99 minutes, and of those 33, 32 had survived.
Wow.
So the announcement system, that's the 1MC?
Yes, the 1MC.
And it just
failed.
didn't work.
The battery backup failed. That's why there was complete silence on the ship. So the crew literally fell back on all that training that we had practiced and pushed them to, and the standard that I kept raising them. And the results speak for themselves, and that USS Cole is repaired and back out there defending freedom today.
So, Kirk, this is Eb here. When this happened, yeah, there's you might have an inkling, but nothing really out of the ordinary to suggest this is going to be bad. Did that incident change the way the Navy did anything going forward?
It fundamentally changed the way they did business, not only from force protection, but also from an intelligence perspective. One of the things that came out in the documentary that even I learned is that following the embassy attacks by Al-Qaeda in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and Nairobi, Kenya in 1998, they captured one of the Al-Qaeda members, and in the debriefing session with him, he told the FBI that Al-Qaeda was planning an attack against Navy ships in the port of Aden, Yemen. The FBI fed that into the intel system, and nothing was done. We walked into that port totally blind and unaware that Al-Qaeda was even planning that attack. The highest level threat message that I had on board USS Cole that morning was what they call secret no foreign. Well, secret no foreign, you can't disseminate it to your allies even. Secret means it's going to cause grave danger to the U.S., but the bottom line is secret is about 1 to 2 days at best ahead of the Washington Post and New York Times. So in reality, the ship in many ways was set up to fail because they did not follow through on that intel. They did not put the conditions in place. And when the blast went off, what the Navy did is you'd normally pull into port and routine harbor operations would continue, even at a higher threat level. And that morning, there was nothing to indicate there was anything untoward or inappropriate going on. Those boats that came out to the ship were exactly what you'd expect. And my young sailor, Fireman Mooney, as the third boat came in, all he thought to himself as the boat went by was, that sure is awful clean for a garbage barge. But that was the only indicator we might have had. And within 10 seconds, it was alongside the ship, just drifting down the side and detonated.
This is classic connect the dots. And this is also one of the lessons that came out of the 9/11 Commission, the fact that we had a wall between the FBI and CIA, the intelligence services, and there wasn't a collaborative sense between law enforcement and intelligence. So this particular piece of information that Kirk just revealed within the documentary actually describes that real challenge of connecting the dots, and that's still a real thing there. Kirk, didn't they also, you mentioned the garbage barge and the preparations coming from Saudi Arabia, but didn't they also have other U.S. Navy ships, if I recall, the Sullivans, come into Aden, and they were looking at that routine as well?
Absolutely. What had happened is the Ambassador Barbara Bodine and the Central Command commander at the time, General Zinni, they had been working for the past 2 years to get more ships into Aden as kind of doing an exchange where we could get oil, we could support the government would provide a safe refueling point for us because obviously Aden at the southwest corner of the Arabian Peninsula sits astride some of the most strategic sea lanes in the world, and you've got the Horn of Africa, piracy operations were rampant at the time. So we really wanted to try and get in there. And the USS Cole was the 27th ship to pull into Aden to take fuel. There had been one port visit there, so there was some of this built-in routine that you submit the logistics request to the embassy. It stays classified until 2 weeks before a ship pulls in. It gets declassified and shares with all the logistics folks down in Aden itself. They did that, and everything that we asked for, we got. We pulled alongside. We expected to take fuel. We got a honey barge or sewage barge to take sewage off the ship. We connected the fresh water down on the pier. We contracted for 3 garbage barges to take off all the trash, plastic, and hazmat that we can't dump at sea. So every indicator was this was a routine brief stop for fuel. And that's when it happened. And I think it's not so much connecting the dots, in my opinion, it is following through on the dots. Because no one in either the FBI, the CIA with the station chief there in Aden, Yemen, or in the capital Sana'a, actually at the embassy, But nobody followed through on the dot to say, look, Al-Qaeda's already demonstrated a capability to attack Americans overseas in the embassies. They demonstrated that capability in 1993 with the attack on World Trade Center 1. And yet here we're given a golden nugget of intelligence, and all they did was feed it into the system with no follow-through, no follow-up, no warning to any ship that ever pulled in there. And so consequently, in January, when the USS the Sullivans pulled in, they attempted an attack with the same boat that would attack us, but it was overloaded with explosives, choppy seas that morning. It sank at the launch point, and Al-Qaeda recovered the boat, the trailer, the car. They moved to a new safe house. What they did for us that they hadn't done for the Sullivans is now they took the time to actually build the explosives into the boat, wrapped in detonation cord with either a hand switch or foot switch, and then they laid in wait until they were ready.
Incredible. And
Kirk, at the time, the rules of engagement were, don't shoot, don't fire unless fired upon. You had another...
Absolutely. When we pulled, just real quick, when we pulled in, we pulled under Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff peacetime rules of engagement, which the only way we could have engaged that boat as it came alongside was if it had exhibited hostile intent, like aim a gun at us, or a hostile act, shooting a gun at us. That boat looked just like the other garbage barges when it detonated. So we were in compliance with the rules of engagement that were imposed on us, and we had no intelligence that would have allowed us to upgrade those rules of engagement to stop a boat like that.
There was another boat that came in afterwards that turned out to be unarmed, but some of the people on board your ship were concerned about that, and they basically said, we're going to be in more trouble if we shoot an unarmed boat than if we don't and something happens.
Absolutely. When we pulled in that morning, the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Standing Rules of Engagement is a book, classified secret. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick, and it very clearly outlines, along with a number of supplementary measures, what you can and cannot do, when you can and cannot engage, what the circumstances are required to be. And we undergo a lot of training to comply with that, and we were ready to do that. I mean, USS Cole in the George Washington Battle Group was ranked the #1 ship for force protection. And even then, we got set up and were attacked. So at the end of the day, you can have all the measures you want, but if the intelligence is not there in order to allow that commander to be able to adjust the force protection posture, you're going to end up with these types of incidents. Plus, you have to remember, when you have an enemy that has chosen to die for their cause, there's no longer fear. There is no longer deterrence. They're going to find a way alongside, and we have yet to present suicide terrorist attacks anywhere in the world.
Kirk, discuss your people, the great sailors. You were there 17 days after the explosion. You had to save your ship. She was about to sink. Talk about that last generator. Talk about dewatering.
Well, what happened is we had #1 and #3 generators operating. We had 3 on board, 2,500 kilowatts each.
Yep.
Number one generator was knocked offline by the force of the explosion. We couldn't restart it. But #3 stayed running, providing power to the back 1/3 of the ship, which meant that if I had power, I could power to pumps. Power to pumps meant that I could dewater. Dewater meant I could save the ship, and we were doing that. But what ended up happening is we were pretty stable through Thursday afternoon, Friday, and Saturday. But around Sunday, we had actually dewatered auxiliary machinery room #2, which was just behind main 1, which bore the brunt of the blast. And we were getting ready to put people down there when all of a sudden, whether a pipe gave way, a bulkhead gave way, we don't know, but the space reflooded. And at about 2:30 in the morning, I just didn't like the situation. I told the XO, get the crew up and put them at general quarters. And shortly thereafter, #3 generator quit, not because of mechanical issues, but we'd lost the ability to monitor the fuel levels in the service tanks that actually gave fuel to the generator. There were two of them. So we were filling one and operating off the other and switching back and forth and keeping them refueled. But we had no way to monitor fuel levels. Well, smart engineers just look in the book and say, what's your kilowatt load? This is your burn rate. And that's how we were filling it. But it was higher, and we ended up, number 3 generator quit about 3:30 in the morning on Sunday. We had 3 shots of high pressure, 3,000 PSI air to restart the generator. And we went through 1, 2, 3 shots until 7:30 Sunday morning. And then after that, I'm literally sitting next to the pier, hot, dark, quiet, and sinking. And we had no way to dewater because getting the hoses all the way down into main engine room number 2 to dewater it as it was slowly flooding, where the only other operating generator, number 2, was, it didn't look good. What is now standard on a ship, which is the 2.5 to 3 inch coupling adapter, so you can put those pumps in series, didn't exist for us. The general workshop had been blown away because it was right near the entrance to main engine room number 1. And God loves sailor ingenuity. One of them came up and said, Captain, what if we were to cut a hole in the side of the ship, put the pumps down at the lower level there, and then run the pumps? And I said, do me a favor, don't measure once, don't measure twice, measure at least 3 times. And when you start to cut, make darn sure that cut is at least 1 foot above the waterline. And they made the cut. We put the exhaust hose out. We started the pump. And that's literally how we kept USS Cole from sinking. And while that was going on, we literally had the crew lined up in a bucket brigade, and we were bucketing out main engine room number 2 just to hedge us enough time to be able to ensure that the ship wouldn't sink. So, I mean, you talk about the finest traditions of the naval service, the crew of USS Cole, every single one of them are heroes.
Kirk, this is going to sound bad, but it's not. In a way, we're kind of lucky that the attack was on your ship and not a ship that wasn't as prepared as yours.
Well, that is an incredibly kind comment and speaks volumes to my crew, and I greatly appreciate that. My only hope and prayer is that every ship in the Navy is as well prepared as mine is. The only thing I can hope is that sometimes you just have to say, you know what, morale may take a little bit of a hit, but we're going to be ready for whatever may come our way. And especially these days when you look at still what's going on in the Middle East, when you especially look at the aggressive nature of what's going on with China, U.S. Navy and our ships had darn well be ready.
Captain Lippold, we need to take a quick break to pay some bills. No channel flipping. We'll be right back after we hear from the folks who help us stay on the air. So stay tuned.
You're listening to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now a word from our sponsor.
It's termite season.
Hi, it's me.
And bugs fear the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. Go blue at Essential Pest Control. We'll eliminate those bugs, bees, and termites. And stop paying too much to that national provider. Buy local for great service and affordable rates. Call Essential Pest Control because termites fear the blue.
Run for your life.
Call for the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. 886-3029. That's 886-3029. Or check online at essentialpest.com.
This is Ed Wilkinson with Wilkinson Wealth Management, where we manage money for gun owners. What does it mean to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired? It means designing a plan that allows you to do the things you want to do, outpace inflation, and never run out of money in your lifetime. If you want to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired, call me, Ed Wilkinson, at 777-1911. That's 777-1911 or WilkinsonWealthMGMT.com.
I'm proud to welcome my good friends at Tucson Iron and Metal Retail to Inside Track as an advertiser. Jamie Kipper and her staff are conservation experts. They sell round and square steel tubing, metal plate and roofing materials, as well as new and used steel, aluminum, and stainless steel to ranchers, artists, interior designers, roofers, as well as you do-it-yourselfers out there. Tucson Iron and Metal Retail is open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays 8 a.m. to noon. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail, 701 East 36th Street. Call 520-209-1576. That's 520-209-1576, or go to TucsonIronRetail.com. Come by and be sure to ask for Jamie. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail. This is what conservation and repurposing is all about.
Welcome back to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now back to our show.
Welcome back to Inside Track. This portion of the show brought to you by Ebb's great company, Wilkinson Wealth Management, who helps my family, and he really is helping me this week as well, paying some things that I need to do. Let him help you also. Wilkinson Wealth Management, call him today at 777-1911. Inside Track also brought to you by Essential Pest Control, Tucson Iron and Metal Retail, and my company, Paul Ash Commercial Real Estate, where we make great things happen every day. Bob, back to you, and Kirk wanted to elaborate where he left off. So, captains, it's all yours.
Sure, Kirk. It's very timely, obviously, with this new documentary out and all the different lessons learned. But you mentioned about force protection, and in this era right now, we're not in the peacetime rules of engagement. Your force protection lessons influenced the U.S. Navy, and it's actually sustained. Can you elaborate more on that?
Absolutely. Force protection fundamentally changed following the attack on Cole, because it used to be that even if you had missing information from a logistics request approved through the embassy and sent down to all those people in the port you're pulling into, nowadays, when you pull into a port, there is an immediate security structure put around that ship. It's on the pier, it's out in the water. You normally will have boats on patrol. The ship has armed people topside, just like we did. But at the end of the day, no boat comes out to a ship. No car comes down the pier. No personnel approach the brow without being fully identified, vetted, and we know who they are. Mm-hmm. So that was the biggest change that went on. The number one thing that I advise with these commanding officers today, and I even brief the law enforcement community on it, is when you look at force protection, you need to ask yourself for every single one of those measures, number one, what are the procedures we have to follow to carry it out? Then what is the equipment that we need to be able to use it? Then what is the training so that we can practice the procedures using the equipment to know how to do it? And that then drives what are the rules of engagement to allow you to actually implement those procedures and the equipment. And then the driver that does everything. What's the intel that's making you do that measure, and where is it coming from? And if you don't have that information, those young commanding officers should be demanding it of the chain of command, saying, you either provide me with answers on why I'm having to do this measure and what the threat is, because I don't see it in the intel you fed me. And if you know more than I do, that's fundamentally wrong, because I'm the accountable officer. Fine. Give me what I need to make sure my crew can stay safe. So force protection's fundamentally changed, and a lot of people are more willing to push back up the chain of command now and not do the political posturing for ships to just pull into port, but in fact demanding that they know what is the threat and how am I going to defend against it.
If you're looking at that principle, what you've experienced and what the U.S. Navy is basically included in force protection measures, I would certainly argue that it would have application on the civil side with those young city managers or the police chiefs in many of our cities in the United States, that if they don't have the intelligence, they don't have the information, they need to be vigilant, they need to ask for it. They need to basically understand the context, what their physical area, what risk, what threats could impact them in our cities or even with our international partners.
I'll share with you. I'll let Captain Kirk answer the question in just a moment. I can tell you for a fact that in this town, the FBI has a lot more information on known threats in the Jewish community than they're willing to give the Jewish community, even at the highest level of leadership within the community. So we're dark in the dark on a lot of things, if not for other resources that the Jewish community has. So what you're talking about, what Captain Lippold is talking about, is absolutely paramount. I mean, in order to save lives, save resources, and avoid these kind of things, we have to have that ability to push back against people who don't share everything.
And we're not in the peacetime era. We're really
we're not in the peace.
We're in a little bit higher level of readiness that we should have as civilians. Taking an example from the U.S. Navy or taking an example from the U.S. Armed Forces, just as if we were overseas somewhere, that we have to realize the challenges here at home.
Yeah.
The risk that we have here.
Go ahead, Kirk.
Excuse me. A key point that goes along with that also is there is no such a thing as a non-state actor these days. Every single one of these groups that has global reach or even regional reach, there is a government out there that is providing them with the ability to be financed, which then means they can recruit, equip, train, practice, and plan, and then carry out terrorist operations, whether it's in our local communities here in the U.S. or around the world, like those young men and women, those two young National Guardsmen that were killed in Syria recently. We need to start looking at and holding governments accountable, not just the terrorist organizations. That's easy. That's a cop-out. It's when you start to follow the money and you find out who in a country associated with the government is allowing money to flow through the banks that get to these terrorist operations, and then hold those governments accountable and say, you can either solve this problem or the United States will become engaged and we will solve it for you.
Welcome to Minnesota.
Yeah, well, yes.
Bob?
Yeah, the knowledge that this radical political Islam is still at war with us. It was shown just there with the guardsmen in D.C., the attack in Syria, the attack on Bondi Beach. And this is not if another attack occurs, it's when another attack occurs. And we need to have better intelligence. We need to have better connect the dots. And as Bob says, get left to boom.
Hey, Bob and Kirk, a question. So the USS Cole, that attack took place in sort of unconventional means. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was a Zodiac boat, right? That had
a barge.
It was not. Yeah, it was a twin-engine, wide boat, but kind of rectangular in shape, where the explosives had been built in. That boat looked exactly like the garbage barges that served both commercial and military ships in the harbor when they pulled in. So when that boat approached, there was nothing unusual about it, because they had done a great job with operational planning when it came to that attack.
So you made the point very, very graphic for us, and I appreciate the detail. So the Cole, let's just say it cost $250 million to build. I have no idea what it cost, but let's just say
I'll let Kirk speak to
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
A bunch of dollars, right? Today, the attack could come from almost any sort of a nondescript source, couldn't it? How is the Navy
absolutely?
How is the Navy now changing what we do, how we defend, and also what we're building to destroy somebody else's fleet at a fraction of the cost that we've been doing with missiles and so on? Talk about that, both of you. You guys are the experts here.
Kirk, go first.
Well, I'll take that one on, because let's face it, the way Ukraine is fighting against Russia is fundamentally changing the face of warfare, both on land and at sea. When you look at how they have exercised drones, airborne drones, surface drones on water, underwater drones that they are using, it has changed warfare. And I'll tell you right now, every Navy in the world is scrambling, including ours, to try and find first means that can counter what may be a potential threat. By the same token, the Russians and the Chinese, along with the United States, are scrambling to develop the innovative types of weapons that are used in that new form of warfare that can threaten those things, because you have to remember, a Navy ship at sea, you may not need what we call a kill. In other words, to sink it, you may just need a mission kill where you can take out its radars or take out its communication or take out a particular weapon system. That could be done with simple like drones. And so we are going to have to figure out how to adapt very quickly to get the equipment on board ships to counter this new type of warfare. And I think that Secretary Hegseth and the Department of War are really fundamentally changing the legacy acquisition systems to be able to be nimble, to be able to adapt and get these types of weapons, have them get tested and then fielded so the troops stay safe.
I'm going to use an acronym here, Kirk, you know this, .mil-PF, because not everything, we can't get there from here overnight. It takes a few months and years to actually do research, development, procure, field test, and then deliver it, equip, train, and provide the sailors.
But that time frame has to be significantly reduced.
We have to reduce it, but
while still maintaining safety and efficiency, right?
That's on the material side,
right.
But you also have doctrine, you also have operational concepts that can be used. So to your point, Bruce, and also to how do we field and understand the lessons of Ukraine and what they're actually doing with regard to acquisition reform, a huge acquisition reform effort going on right now in the Department of War. The fact is we do have operational concepts. We do have hot spots that are going to actually and have been testing and exercising specifically in the Pacific, Indo-Pacific region for Taiwan contingencies. We have the good news for us is we've got, again, on the relationship side, we have alliances, with Japan, with Australia, with Thailand, Philippines in particular, to basically create capabilities that ring the area of interest. We'll see lines of communication between Japan and Taiwan, or China, and the Singapore Malacca Strait. So we're actually fielding these unmanned capabilities. We are actually having surface-to-surface capabilities, long-range munitions on islands. We've got submarines as well. So it's a full court press. We are in a different level of readiness. It's one of the reasons it was changed from Department of Defense to Department of War.
Right.
So we have to see the world as it is. And I think over the last 15 years, in particular since 9/11, since 2009, quite frankly, when we sort of came off the global war of terrorism, we have to reboot back up in terms of vigilance. It's not a peacetime environment. We have to stay ready. We've been through this before. And I think the lessons, what I take from Kirk's leadership and also back to the Cole and those sailors and their innovation, it's inspirational with regard to communicating and training and preparing for this. You have to stay vigilant. And as Condi Rice used to say in the Bush administration when we were there, we have to be right 100% of the time. They have to be right just once. And Kirk's point about it's not about hitting a ship. It could be, for example, a radar.
Great point.
And a mission point. Anything I left out, Kirk?
No, I think that absolutely covered it. I think that there's probably a lot more innovation going on than we're aware of.
Yes.
Because clearly in the anti-drone world, that's very tactical. But we are giving a lot of these ships and our ground troops the ability to defend against those drones. A lot of it from the lessons learned coming out of Ukraine.
The Ukraine war is sort of like what the Spanish Civil War was to World War II. Whether it's World War IV or various sorts of regional battles that go on in the future is being created right there in the battlefield, and even the great weapons that we've provided to Ukraine, they're nothing in compared to the vast collection of weapons that cost a fraction of what these atom missiles or is it Atom or Getum? The missile that we just gave Ukraine that has a longer range.
Attack them.
I was close. I had a third of it right. But these are the things that really may change the nature of warfare.
Yeah, Ukraine is giving us the training for the next war.
Yeah.
And Ukraine is giving us the training for the next way that we conduct that with drones and everything else.
I think Kirk's leadership lessons, though, in the focus on training, you get the crew that you're assigned to, and you get people that you can see where you can raise the bar in terms of getting ready and communicating the latest information. You mentioned the Navy was scrambling, or people are scrambling. We still need the I&W. We still need to have connect the dots. We still need to ask the question to basically become more prepared. That's a leader's responsibility. But we're still going to rely on that crew. We're still going to rely on your people, and to communicate is the key thing. Up and out, all different levels there, Kirk, as you did, and also communicate to us through this new documentary about the importance of your ship.
So, are the people, do you think, Kirk and Robert, do you think they're focused on that Daily Mail documentary? Because I'm wondering just how ossified our intelligence services may still be. And with a lot of the departures that have taken place, who's going to fill those slots?
I'll have to defer to Kirk. Kirk, you've been there with the production. It's been informed by your front burner, exceptional book to account for it. You've done your job with regard to telling the story of your experience, but how is it being received, and what's the feedback you've received?
Feedback has been incredibly positive. When people actually listen to the entire documentary, there's some new facts that come out regarding the attack. As I mentioned, the one where we had information directly related to Al-Qaeda in the port of Aden, Yemen, and the threat it represented. I think when you also look at it, it is a number of, you have to take that larger strategic view of why are we putting ships in certain places at certain times, and what support are we giving them? And I think that's going to be true throughout the entire military. A lot of the lessons learned that came out of the attack on Cole came into how can we make the ships better? How can we make them more resilient? How can we better prepare the sailors for something like this? And I think that the only way you do that is you create time for them to do that. I think one of the problems you have a lot of times with the intelligence community, true even today, is that leadership always wants to see people busy. But you have to remember, those intel analysts, sometimes the best gift you can give them is give them a lot of information, give them a lot of data, but then most important, give them time to digest it and analyze it and think about it and talk to other people and kind of put together that picture. Analysis is not something that happens instantly, and not everyone can be a good analyst. You have to give them that time to think, to be able to say and ask, what are the what ifs? What if this were to happen? How would this go down? What would this look like? And so creating that time and space for analysts to truly think through their job is incredibly important. And I think sometimes the intelligence community gets so focused on producing something when actually the production can occur in someone's mind, sitting at a desk or taking time to go walk outside and just give them that time and space to think.
And the interesting thing is, even one little new piece of data can completely change their mind on what they were thinking moments before.
Absolutely. You have to have that flexibility where they can question, why are we doing this way? Geez, we've always done it that way. Okay, there may be a certain process that has proven to be very beneficial to try and capture as much information as possible. But occasionally you need to step outside of your comfort zone and make sure you ask the hard questions up the chain of command, not just get the questions from down the chain of command.
Where are the young and new leaders coming from that are making their way to the leadership in the intelligence services in the United States? Are there schools that, or are they diplomats, former diplomats in countries around the world? Where are these people coming from?
Well, I can tell you a quick one from personal experiences. During COVID, I reached out to the Naval Academy to become an adjunct professor, and they put me in a course called Ethics and Moral Reasoning for Naval Leaders. And in that, I had the great opportunity to work with a retired two-star Rear Admiral Paul Becker, who was in the intel community. He was an intel officer. And his ability to look at some of the midshipmen that want to go into the intel community and to interview them, let me tell you, at least coming out of the Naval Academy, and I have no doubt that the ROTC programs are doing the same thing, they are producing some of the best and brightest out there. And that we are teaching them how to think through the problem, do it in a very ethical and moral way, but also be prepared to fight the fight that's necessary if we need to, and back it up with facts that would justify informing senior leadership to make those difficult decisions to put men and women in harm's way. So I have great faith in the young men and women that are coming to serve out there today. But again, the question that really gets asked at the bigger picture, and I'm sure you're going to agree, is going to be, you have to not only have the capability to get into a fight and survive, but you have to have the political credibility that you're willing to exercise that force in a manner necessary to safeguard U.S. national security interests. So you need capability, but you also need credibility.
The bad guys need to know that you're serious.
So do the bad guys know that America is serious today?
I think they do. Under this administration, I think we're seeing a lot more accountability. Could there be more? Absolutely, yes. Because I'm based on my experience, I'm sorry, I'm one of those hard noses that say, as far as I'm concerned, you harm or you kill an American, we're going to do two things. We're going to hunt you down and we're going to kill you.
It's like the Al Capone thing in The Untouchables. If you take down one of our guys, take down three of yours. So I'd be irresponsible in my role as a co-host of this show if I didn't ask this question. So the United States Navy got himself an oil tanker recently. The United States has put I call it an armada. I don't know what you would call it. You guys are the professionals in this area, but a buttload of boats in the Caribbean and off in the Atlantic surrounding that whole area. What do you think, both Bob and Kirk, what do you think is going to happen there? And is this something we should be engaged in right now?
Well, Bob, I'm going to let you take this one first, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, I think certainly the one particular vessel that you're mentioning with regard to the interdiction was the oil tanker, the Skipper. It's one of the ghost fleets, right. And it covers where Kirk and I have operated, and that is off of Iran. And it basically has oil.
You guys actually did this, right?
We did this. We did maritime interdiction operations aboard oil tankers. I've escorted Kuwaiti tankers out of the Persian Gulf, et cetera. But for sanctions regimes, this was a non-state flag. It had a false flag of Belize on board the ship. It had oil that was going to go to Iran, as I understand it. And the United States, it's illegal, based on our sanctions policy. We do that. We've done that before throughout the last 30 years. We had legitimacy with the United Nations Security Council resolutions and also U.S. Treasury Department OFAC sanctions. So that's a legitimate thing, a legitimate tool. We're going to continue to ratchet up. To answer your question, we have a carrier strike group that's operating distributed across the Caribbean, also in the Eastern Pacific. Policy-wise, the president's declared cartels as a terrorist organization.
And fentanyl is a
now weapon of mass destruction. So we're using our tools. We're connecting the dots. One thing about the Southern Command AOR, it didn't have as robust of an intelligence support capability as, for example, the Indo-Pacific or the Central Command. It's pretty much been a law enforcement and cooperative engagement with Southern Command. Admiral Stavridis had command of Kirk Tidd, our colleague Kirk Tidd had command of U.S. Southern Command. We're changing it. We've changed it in the strategy. So what we're doing is pretty much turning the lights on the room, looking where the furniture is, looking at where these actual cartels are, just like we did with the IRGC, just like we did with ISIS, just like we did with any other nefarious organization that wants to do the U.S. harm. Over to you, Kirk.
Well, what I would add is that when you look at what we've got there, you also have to ask the question of why.
Yes.
And when you look at it from a strategic perspective, there's been a lot of hand-wringing in the country and stirred up by the media. At the end of the day, every country, even the United States, or including the United States, we have an inherent right of self-defense. Let's face it, we've been waging a, quote, war on drugs since the Nixon administration, and it has been actually futile. In the Navy's case, they use it somewhat as a budget gimmick to allow people to be able to get ships underway and conduct training and operate, in those regions of the world, in the Gulf of Mexico and South. The bottom line is, now that we are beginning to make a decision to take this war on drugs to the cartels who produce the product, who produce the chemicals that kill hundreds of thousands of Americans over decades, it's time to begin to hold them accountable. And all these people that are worried about the boats that we're attacking, the intel exists. You'll notice that there's not much in the news these days about, well, we don't have the intel to prove that these boats are in fact filled with drugs themselves. Yes, we do. The fact that the Department of War wisely chooses not to share that because they consider the operational security of what's going on.
Yes.
They don't divulge who is actually running these ships that are out there. The bottom line is we're defending our nation, and we're using international law. We are taking out these boats. When it comes to the tankers, there was a federal judge 2 weeks ago that said that the skipper could be seized because it was a stateless vessel, this ghost fleet. It was operating under what's called a false flag. In other words, it wasn't flying the flag that it was claimed to be under. So therefore, any vessel that's stateless can be taken over by the United States or by any country for that matter. We just have the forces in place to do it. So there's a number of things that are at play right now. But first and foremost, we're beginning to defend our nation and our citizens from being killed by all these narco-terrorists. And oh, by the way, we are also leveraging protecting Europe as well, because the majority of drugs that go to Europe come via the sea routes. More importantly, we're sending a signal to Mexico that the majority of drugs coming into the U.S. come through the land route through Mexico, and Sheinbaum, as the president there, she can solve the problem, or we will help her solve it.
Kirk, we're running out of time, and before we get further, take 2 minutes and talk about your crew and the awards they've been given and what your thoughts are.
Well, number one, as I mentioned earlier, is that I couldn't be more proud of the job that my crew did in those defining moments, in the minutes, hours, and days after that attack. When we sat down and tried to figure out how can we truly, as a Navy and a nation, address their courage, we wrote out a number of awards. Unfortunately, during both the Clinton and Bush administrations, as those awards worked their way through the chain of command, every one of them were downgraded from wartime awards that I wrote up to peacetime awards because they didn't want to recognize that Al-Qaeda was at war with us. Obviously, 9/11 changed that, but even then, they didn't change the status of the awards. So today, the awards for you at the crew of USS Cole are peacetime awards. And I would hope that at some point, this administration or a future administration reviews those awards and gives them credit where they were due. We were involved in combat against Al-Qaeda. The crew acquitted themselves as heroes during combat operations because we were awarded the combat action ribbon, but the awards were peacetime awards, and that just didn't make sense. So I hope at some point the awards get reviewed and upgraded to be all combat awards.
Kirk, you're a treasure. Before we close up shop today, this past Saturday's thousands of your friends and neighbors showed up to lay a wreath at the grave sites of veterans at cemeteries all over the Tucson area. Well over 1,000 alone in Arizona Veterans Cemetery Marana. Great work by many different organizations who work on behalf of wreaths across America, especially our good friend Onita Davis. Bruce?
Thanks so much for joining us today, Captain Lippold. And I hope we can. I think we may have touched on the topic for our next show together.
Yes.
So hopefully we can bring you back at that time, maybe sometime late in January or February. All of our Inside Track podcasts are available on Live the Dream Media's Facebook Live page, YouTube, Apple, and X. We'll be back next Wednesday for a classic cowboy Christmas movie show with Harry and Bunker. So tune in for some good fun. Until next week, this is Bruce Ash,
Eb Wilkinson,
Bob Wells,
and Kurt Lippold. We hope you'll all join us again in 167 hours.
You're listening to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now a word from our sponsor.
It's termite season.
Hi, it's me.
And bugs fear the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. Go blue at Essential Pest Control. We'll eliminate those bugs, bees, and termites. And stop paying too much to that national provider. Buy local for great service and affordable rates. Call Essential Pest Control because termites fear the blue.
Run for your life.
Call for the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. 886-3029. That's 886-3029. Or check online at essentialpest.com.
This is Eb Wilkinson with Wilkinson Wealth Management, where we manage money for gun owners. What does it mean to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired? It means designing a plan that allows you to do the things you want to do, outpace inflation, and never run out of money in your lifetime. If you want to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired, call me, Eb Wilkinson, at 777-1911. That's 777-1911 or WilkinsonWealthMGMT.com.
I'm proud to welcome my good friends at Tucson Iron and Metal Retail to Inside Track as an advertiser. Jamie Kipper and her staff are conservation experts. They sell round and square steel tubing, metal plate and roofing materials, as well as new and used steel, aluminum, and stainless steel to ranchers, artists, interior designers, roofers, as well as you do-it-yourselfers out there. Tucson Iron and Metal Retail is open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail, 701 East 36th Street. Call 520-209-1576. That's 520-209-1576. Or go to TucsonIronRetail.com. Come by and be sure to ask for Jamie. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail. This is what conservation and repurposing is all about.